Welcome back everyone. Today we'll be discussing Sonic's first 3D adventure with Sonic Adventure. But of course, let's begin with how the game came to be in the first place. So once again, Sonic was now a recognizable character across the world. Even though you may have never heard of him before or played his games, you couldn't go 2 minutes without someone mentioning the Blue Hedgehog. His games were good and everyone loved him, but it was around this time that 2D games would slowly transform into 3D games as the years went on. With Mario 64 becoming Mario's first 3D adventure, it was only a matter of time before Sonic would follow suit. Unfortunately, unlike Mario who had an easy run with 3D, Sonic had many struggles jumping into the 3D world. The first main 3D Sonic game that was in development for the Sega Saturn was Sonic X-treme. And as some of you may know already, the game would be cancelled very quickly due to harsh development, and based on what I've seen from the old footage, it didn't really seem that exciting or fun to play. Then we had a few small games that tried to bring Sonic into 3D that wasn't meeting the status quo, and it wasn't until 1998 that fans would finally get to experience the actual 3D Sonic experience, which was titled Sonic Adventure. In the game, you'll be playing 6 characters that you need to complete in order to understand the overarching story. I'll try to match the individual stories as well as I possibly can. So with that said, let's begin with the story. This is my royal review of Sonic Adventure. Deep in Station Square, we see the blue blur doing what he does best when he suddenly spots police cars rushing somewhere. Sonic follows to find out what's going on when he suddenly discovers a water-like creature called Chaos. Sonic is easily able to defeat Chaos with him retreating to recover. The next day, Sonic is enjoying his time at the beach when he sees his best friend Tails crash. He goes to help him out and the two catch up. They go to Mystic Ruins when they're surprised by Dr. Eggman. Once the battle is over, Eggman steals the Chaos Emerald Tails was holding and gives it to Chaos. You see, Dr. Eggman wants to use the power of the Chaos Emeralds to power up Chaos so that he can destroy Station Square and create Robotnik Land. Once Eggman leaves with Chaos, Sonic and Tails go to look for the emeralds before Eggman can. However, this plan turns out to be a complete failure. Whenever Sonic and Tails find the emeralds, it's immediately taken away by Eggman with no effort whatsoever by either a simple sleep gas or just snatching it. During their hunt for the emeralds, they come across Knuckles who attack the two, believing that they have the Master Emerald shards. Before Sonic's story, Knuckles was guarding the Master Emerald on Angel Island when the emerald suddenly shatters and unleashes chaos. When the Master Emerald shattered, the pieces scattered across the land while also having the island fall into the ocean. When Knuckles searches for the shards, he comes across Eggman who tricks him into believing that Sonic is responsible. When they both clash, both drop the emeralds, giving Eggman the opportunity to steal them and make Chaos even stronger. After the fight against Chaos, Sonic and Tails try to chase Eggman with the tornado but fail to do so, leaving the duo separated. It's around this time that Sonic comes across Amy, who is currently living in Station Square. Earlier in the story, Amy came across a bird who was being chased by a green robot, and the two have been trying to hide from it ever since. Eventually, the robot does capture Amy and the bird, bringing them to Eggman's carrier. It's here that Amy befriends another robot named E102 Gamma who lets her escape. By this time, Sonic and Tails reunite and rescue Amy while also having a final battle with Chaos in his 6th form, with the help from Knuckles while also meeting a cat named Big, who was looking for his frog after he swallows some of Chaos. When they defeat Chaos, everyone splits up after the egg carrier loses control. Knuckles manages to restore the Master Emerald, allowing Angel Island to go up in the sky once again. Sonic chases after Eggman, which leads him to the Mystic Ruins. Tails, after bringing Amy to safety, discovers Eggman deciding to destroy Station Square with a giant missile since he no longer has Chaos, but thankfully it turns out to be a dud. And Tails is able to save Station Square before Eggman could reactivate the missile. Meanwhile, Amy is able to find the bird's missing family, with the final bird being free from Gamma after he had a final clash with Eggman's robots, and Big finds his frog. However, it turns out that Chaos wasn't completely destroyed. As he managed to retrieve the 7th emerald, he betrays Eggman and floods Station Square with his true form, Perfect Chaos. And if you were wondering if any humans survived all this, yes. Despite there being a large number of people out on the streets when Chaos attacks, they all suddenly disappear. Don't question it. At this point in time, everyone is in Station Square, and the sparkling red light that's been following everyone soon reveals itself to be an ancient echidna from the past named Tikal. In each character's story, Tikal will show up and tell everyone about her past. Tikal's father, the leader of the echidnas, wanted to use the power of the emeralds for control. Within Angel Island are the Chao, cute small creatures that were guarded by a mutated Chao, Chaos. When the tribe arrived to take it by force, they harmed the Chao and caused Chaos to be enraged, destroying the entire Echidna tribe. Before he can do more harm, Tikal used the power of the Master Emerald to seal both her and Chaos inside the Master Emerald, until it was eventually shattered by Eggman. In the final battle, Sonic harnesses the power of the positive energy in the Chaos Emerald to transform into Super Sonic, and after a few rounds of fighting Chaos, he's able to revert Chaos into his original form and become good again. Tikal thanks Sonic as she and Chaos can finally rest their spirits in peace, ending Sonic Adventure. Well, that was a lot. When it comes to the characters' personal stories, I actually thought they weren't too bad, with a few exceptions. Sonic's is the classic stop Eggman from taking over the world, Tails' story is about believing in himself and learning how to have more confidence, Knuckles simply wants to fix the Master Emerald, and Amy's story is about becoming more independent. All four of their stories are okay in my book, but when it comes to Gemma and Big, not so much, especially when it comes to their overarching journey. Let's talk about Gemma first. I feel like out of these two, Gemma had more potential in being a more reoccurring character. After he becomes good thanks to Amy, he destroys all of Eggman's remaining robots to no longer cause any more harm, but in the end, he dies. And this is also a problem that I have with this story. What was ever the point in showing Gemma the past of Tikal and Chaos if he was going to die in the end? Sure, he freed the bird that was inside him in the process, but once again, why bother? I feel like if Gemma lived on, he could have been a more fleshed out character with him allying himself with Amy in future stories, but I'll leave it at that. Big, however, has nothing to do with the story at all whatsoever. I have no problem with Big as a character, but if you took him away from the story, you wouldn't notice a huge difference compared to the rest of the cast. Alright, let's finally get into the gameplay. Sonic Adventure is a 3D platformer. In each stage, the world you travel in comes in many shapes and sizes. One of the best things about the stages is that they're very expressive thanks to the slightly open level design. This can even lead to multiple pathways to completing a stage for more replay value. The game even rewards your curiosity by finding extra lives and rings. It gives players a reason to explore. When it comes to the levels, there are 11 stages in total, but keep in mind, not every character will explore that set number. Sonic and Tails go through 10, with Tails being slightly quicker to finish, Knuckles goes through 4, Amy goes through 3, Gamma gets 5, and Big has 4. Most of the stages were really fun experiences. Emerald Coast was nice, I love the beach setting, and it was a really great beginner stage to learn the controls. Windy Valley was also a good stage, focusing on high-speed action. You can even go inside a tornado and run through it. Twinkle Park was also a good stage with its castle look. I even liked the racing minigame it had. Speed Highway was also a nice stage with its open design. Red Mountain is when things start to pick up a bit by testing your platforming skills, but it was a nice challenge overall. Casinopolis requires you to collect a certain number of rings to complete the stage. I could take or leave it, but I will give it credit for the Knights pinball game. That was a neat distraction. Ice Cap is a returning stage from Sonic 3. While I am happy that they brought back a classic level into 3D, it's nothing special except for the snowboarding sequence. That was fun to play. Skydeck is the stage I died the most in. If it wasn't because of the bottomless pits, then it was certainly how they placed the cameras in certain angles that led me to not having proper landings to save myself. It's even worse on the second half when the ship starts tilting, which causes the camera to mess up a bit. Lost World is a stage that I had similar problems with when it came to the camera. Once you get on the snake, the camera has the worst time trying to fix itself. Besides that part, the stage as a whole isn't too bad. Hot Shelter is a stage only accessible to Amy, Big, and Gamma. The stage focuses more on platforming and is a lot shorter to finish. The last stage for Sonic and the first stage for Gamma is Final Egg. It's definitely the longest stage to finish and should take you a few tries to complete. Before entering a stage, each character needs to go through 3 hub worlds. They're Station Square, Mystic Ruins, and the Egg Carrier. The hub worlds in this game are very well constructed. They're not too big, you can run at your natural speed, and each stage within the hub worlds aren't too far from each other. If you're ever lost or not sure what to do, Tikal can tell you where you need to go. Alright, let's finally talk about the characters and how they play. Let's start with Sonic first. Sonic focuses on high-speed platforming just like his 2D counterpart. I'm happy to say that Sonic controls beautifully in this game. There was never a moment where I found him having any problems with his platforming. He can still run fast, use the spin dash, and jump on enemies. Throughout Sonic's progression, he'll gain new permanent abilities by finding upgrades in the hub worlds. One of the techniques that he can already do is the homing attack. By simply pressing the jump button twice, he can home straight into the enemy multiple times. This is a great ability to have. It keeps the pace going without stopping. You can even use it to home on items in certain platforms. Other upgrades include the Lightspeed Dash shoes. By simply holding the spin dash for a few seconds, Sonic will be able to dash on rings once he glows blue. Later on, you can find other upgrades like the blue ring that decreases the wait time for the spin dash, and the crystal light that will allow speed dashing on enemies. So yeah, overall Sonic plays great in his 3D environment. Tails also plays similar to Sonic 2 and 3. He can still run fast, spin into a ball, and fly high for a few seconds. Tails' gameplay is a bit different from Sonic's. The main objective in his stages is getting to the goal before Sonic can, but because of his flight, he can pass through a huge chunk of the stage quickly without having too many difficulties. Later on, Tails can obtain the rhythm badge that lets the fox infinitely spin and attack like a Beyblade. Overall, I enjoyed Tails in this game. Knuckles' gameplay is emerald hunting, which means that all of his stages are small areas. Within the stages are 3 emerald pieces that you need to look for in order to finish the level. Emerald pieces are normally located inside enemies, underground, or on walls, but don't worry, it's not as if you'll be searching blindly for the shards. Each stage gives you a radar to look for the shards. If you're ever close to any of the emerald pieces, the radar will let you know. If you're not sure where to look, Tikal can lead you in the right direction. Upgrades for Knuckles are simply for digging underground, and these gloves that are supposed to give your punches more blast, but I never really used that. Knuckles' gameplay was pretty fun though. He can still glide, climb on walls, and is just as fast and controllable as Sonic. Amy, unlike the main trio, is a much slower character, who can't jump on enemies, do the homing dash, and doesn't focus on high speed. Because of this, her stages are more focused on platforming and running away from the robot that constantly chases her throughout the campaign. My overall opinion for Amy is okay, but I wouldn't play as her compared to Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles. E102 Gamma's stages, just like Amy's, are focused on platforming and aren't as long to complete. Gamma's gameplay is focused on getting to the goal before time runs out. To keep the timer up, Gamma needs to shoot a large number of enemies in order to reach the goal. Gamma in terms of controls feels much faster than Amy, but once again, he's not focused on speed. I actually like Gamma's playstyle. It's well constructed and was pretty fun blasting my way through the game. For upgrades, Gamma can unlock his blaster that increases blast radius and his hover pack that allows him to hover for a limited time. Alright, it's about time we get into our last character, Big the Cat. Big's gameplay is all about fishing. To finish each stage, you need to make sure that Froggy gets the bait and pull him out. Seems simple enough, but this is where the game starts losing my patience. Whenever I catch fish, the meter will show up to tell me to start pulling. But with Froggy, it's different. The frog is apparently picky with your bait because whenever he tries to bite, he suddenly lets go in an instant. I don't get that. What am I doing wrong here? It wasn't until 30 minutes on Ice Cap Zone that I discovered that I needed to move the left stick around the moment Froggy bites on the rod. Once I did that, I had no further issues, but I don't need to do this with normal fish, so what's the deal? There's even this upgrade that allows Big to swim underwater but not get the frog. Out of the 6 playable characters, Big is the character that I would play the least unless I have nothing else better to do. The boss fights also make a return. Eggman's boss fights are a good challenge, especially the final fight in Sonic's story, even though there's only a few. But it's not just Eggman, there's also Chaos boss fights, which each form he attains. And they're not really that bad. It all comes down to patience in the end. Amy's boss has her fight against the robot who chases her throughout the game. That's pretty easy once you get the patterns right. Gamma's boss fights are pathetic. I only need to press the shoot button with no effort whatsoever. While it's true that his final fight is slightly different, it's still an easy go. And let's not forget the rival battles. To put it simply, they're just not good. I can easily take them all down without thinking. And then we have the graphics. To make it clear, I'm playing the remastered re-release called Sonic Adventure DX, which gave the original a more sharpened look. When it comes to graphics and 3D models, I believe everyone looks good in their new 3D environment. Everyone looks just as good as their original classic counterpart. When it comes to the environment, I also think they visually look good as well, and everything sticks out enough to have a unique appearance. However, when it comes to the movement animations and expressions, it's bad. With movement, every character looks very stiff on the move, and facial expressions along with mouth movement whenever a character speaks looks very weird. As for the voice acting,
watch out! You're gonna crash! Ah!
It's okay. Considering this is Sonic and the gang's first game with voice acting, it gets the job done. I will admit that at times the voice direction does seem off on certain lines. One of my favorite scenes is when Tails talks about the egg carrier and Sonic gives him the obvious look.
Hey, it transformed! Did you see that?
Now how are we gonna get to the bridge?
I hate it when he doesn't listen to me.
And last but not least, we have the soundtrack. It's great. I love most of what it has to offer. The adventure soundtrack screams with high, exciting energy that makes you want to keep playing and shaking your head. The character themes, stage themes, and boss themes feel well constructed and well made. So, what do I think about Sonic Adventure? The graphics look good even for today, the characters while stiff in some instances look great in their 3D forms, the level design for each stage can be great for each character that involves platforming, and while I may only play half of the characters, I will say that Adventure 1 is a game that I will gladly come back to. It also helps that every character controls beautifully. With that said, everyone have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.
Froggy? Uh-oh. No! Hold on there! Come back, please! Give me my friend back! I'm begging you, please!